In the name of the one holy and undivided Trinity. Amen. So November the 1st is All Saints Day. Sometime, a long time ago, it was called All Hallows Day. And that meant that the night before All Hallows Day was All Hallows Even, which is why we call October 31st what? Halloween. It was the eve of All Saints Day. And this is such an important feast in the life of the church that it's one of the few feasts that we're allowed to celebrate on that very day and on the Sunday following. So that's why we gather today, still celebrating the Feast of All Saints. And it's a day that the church has appointed as especially appropriate for the faithful to renew their baptismal vows and for new people to be brought into the life of the church through holy baptism, which we're going to do this morning. Now, any guesses as to why baptism is so appropriate on the Feast of All Saints? Why? Olivia. Olivia and I met to talk about the baptismal vows, and I had nothing but to tell her because she knew it all. She goes to a good Catholic school, so we'll give her the credit. Exactly. And all our parishioners are going, phew, because I didn't know that. If we look back in our scriptures, our Christian scriptures, we get the clue right there. Because think of all of Paul's letters. Paul wrote to the saints in the church at Ephesus. He said, to the saints in the church at Philippi, to the saints in the church at Colossae. He wasn't writing to just a few of them. He was writing to the whole community of faith that had been baptized. Because saint is just a word, it comes from the Latin word that means holy. And holy is a word that just means set apart. So it was all the faithful, all the baptized who had been set apart in this special way to follow God. Now, having said that, over the last 2,000 years, we as a community of faith can't help but celebrate the lives and memories of those amazing men, women, and children, because some of the saints were very, very young, who have stood out as amazing examples to us of how to live our baptismal life. And they are our superstars in the faith. The A-team, I like to call them the spiritual jocks. They're the ones that, we want to read about in the paper and see their stats and all that kind of stuff. But their lives were a living out of the gospel life to serve as inspiration for all of us to be pulled into that life set apart. The saints that we think of as the main saints are simply those who so amazingly, in their own different ways, they were each different, show us how to live that baptismal covenant that you all are going to enter into, and we're going to renew in a few moments. They show us how to live those beatitudes that we just heard read. The blessed, Jesus said, blessed are they who. And this year, at St. John's, we are devoting the whole academic year, 9 months, focusing on the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit works in our lives. And each month, we're devoting to one of the 9 fruits of the Spirit. We started in September with, what was the fruit of the Spirit? Love. Last month was joy. And this month, we look into the fruit of generosity. And it dawned on me as I was thinking about this change of the month and this great feast of all the saints, that really hits at what the saints were all about. The saints were those who exhibited this great generosity in living out all the fruits of the Spirit. And if you turn to page 3 in your program, you have that graphic that we've been using about what the fruit of the Spirit is. And as I was looking at that, it struck me that in some way each of the Beatitudes that Jesus said correlates to one of those fruits of the Spirit. So I'd like to sort of just point out briefly those connections. And you see, this is a lot of blank space here, so that's calling out for what? Coloring, yes. So you all have to share But when I name the fruit of the Spirit, you can color it in, but you're going to have to go fast because I work fast. So Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." It's the first of the Beatitudes. And I'm sort of surprised sometimes that often some people hear this in a different way than it was intended. I once had somebody say to me, why is it good for us to not have much spirit? I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, the Beatitude says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." And I said, oh, no. It's not saying that like if we're poor in clothes or poor in riches. That's not what it means by poor in spirit. Poor in spirit means that we spiritually understand poverty. We may not be destitute of worldly goods, but we understand what it is to rely on the generosity of another. And in the life of faith, that is relying on the generosity of God. That God gives us everything we need and all that we have. So this first, we begin with the saints being people who are generous in understanding the generosity of God. It's reciprocal. And when you understand that generosity of God and rely on it, that is the first fruit we're going to talk about today, faithfulness. And if you see it, it's sort of written sort of funny. It's right by the word generosity. It's on 3 different lines. When you see faithfulness, you can color that in. I think they're going to get started. Blessed are those who are generous in their faith. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." We don't usually think of people mourning as being blessed. But in the Middle Ages, there was an expression, the gift of tears. And it was considered a gift because tears were an outward and visible sign of deep love. So those who wept showed love. And the saints are those who are most generous in their love. And I think you already have love colored in, don't you? Yes, you do. Love. Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." And the meek are simply those who are generous in the fruit of gentleness. That's right there under generosity. Gentleness. Not thinking too much of oneself. Having an understanding of the right order of the world, and that we're all part of it together. And that's why they will inherit the earth. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness." And when we're hungry and thirsty for food, what do? We find it, don't we? We find it. And so those who hunger and thirst for righteousness are those who make it happen. They work for justice in this world. They are those who combine their faith with their actions. And so the saints are those who are generous in that last one on the page, one we don't usually talk about a lot in our society, self-control. That we actually can control some of our actions some of the time, if we're lucky. So the saints are generous in that action, in that self-control. Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy." The saints are those who are generous in that fruit of kindness. That's what being merciful is being kind to another. Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And I love this because it's such a wonderful phrase, but really, what does it mean to be pure in heart? Well, I would put forth that the pure in heart are those who look for God in everyone and everything. We talked about St. Francis last month. That's what he did. He saw God in everything and in everyone. And when you look for God and see God in everything around you, what fruit does that fill you with? Joy. Joy. How can you not be joyful when God is all around you? So the saints are those who are most generous in seeing God in another. And Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." And that's one of the fruits of the Spirit, peace. And it seems to me that part of that ingredient of peace is forgiveness. That's what works for peace. So the saints are those who are generous in forgiveness, in working for restoring relationship between people. And that's why they've been called children of God, because God is the ultimate forgiver. And then Jesus said, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. And that leaves one of our fruits of the Spirit. Who's been paying attention? What's the one that we haven't named yet? Is Olivia going to get a home run here? That's the book that it's from. It's from Galatians. This one. Patience. The persecuted are blessed because they patiently wait for God's glory to be revealed. These are those who, even when they are oppressed, when they are repressed, depressed, when they are suffering, even in the face of death, they see that what we suffer in this present age isn't to be compared with the glory to be received. So they wait patiently. They wait patiently for God's love to manifest itself in a broken and seemingly unloving world. They have that hope and they have that patience. So there you go, our fruits of the Spirit, our Beatitudes, our whole baptismal life. My prayer today, as we remember those great men, women, and children who have shown us amazing lives to emulate, and as we also remember our own faithful departed, we may not say they were the spiritual jocks, but they too showed us God's love in just their relationships with us. As we remember these souls, the best way we can do that is to honor them and God by growing into our baptismal covenant, by growing into all of these fruits of the Spirit. And if we really want to be like the capital S saints, we do it with a great generosity.